So let me answer some of these right here. The first one I got here that I'm going to answer, out of most of them, is, so according to scripture, if a man fornicates, the wife can divorce him, question mark, / statement. It says, if he habitually fornicates, what can she do? Good question. Good question. All right, so there's two different ways to look at this question right here. One, you've got if the person is in the truth doing this, and the other half of it is if you're dealing with somebody who don't believe. So it's two ways you have to look at it. When you answer a question like that, you have to find out how I think if you both in the truth and this is happening. Your desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over you. So from the get-go, there's never no 50-50. There's no compromise is what you want to say. What's the other words? Equality, women's rights when it comes to the Most High. That stuff, that ain't even in his thought process. He set the man up for a reason. But on top of that, it ain't for now he can do whatever he wants to you. Romans 7:1. We'll get that too. Romans 7:1, backing up. Romans 7:1, backing up. According to the scripture, if a man fornicates, the wife can't divorce. You're exactly right. Here's your scriptures. Romans 7, read 1 through 3.
Romans chapter 7 and verse 1. Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law have dominion over a man as long as he liveth.
So Paul, contrary to what Christianity teaches, Paul never taught the laws of God was done away with. Read on.
Verse 2. For the woman which hath an husband is bound by the law to her husband, so long as he liveth.
So no matter what he does, even if he is an adulterer. I'm speaking about, this is two people in the truth. You bound by the law. The law says, what we read in Matthew, that we'll go to it here after in a minute, but you can't put them away. Read on.
But if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in the Lord.
Only in the Lord. So no, if your husband happens to pass away in the midst of sin, you cannot now go and find your high school sweetheart and say, hey, I'm free now. No. You can't do that. The Most High says you got to you want to get remarried? Okay, cool, he's passed away. Now, only in the Lord. Another man that's keeping the commandments of God. Don't go looking for that old fling you used to have, seeing what's going on in their life. That's the stipulation of being remarried if he passes away. Stuff on TV now. Who believes this? Read that, verse 10.
1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 10. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord. Let not the wife depart from her husband.
You done heard that three or four scriptures? That you done heard that? No divorcing. Read on.
Verse 11. But, and if she depart, let her remain unmarried.
That is what you can do if you have a husband that is a habitual fornicator. A cheater, a adulterer. God says that you do have the option where you can now, what does it say? Separate. Remember, this is in two people in the truth. You can't get remarried because he's still a believer. He can. What's always on the table for anybody in this truth, brothers? Repentance. And this Negro is committing adultery, but you still get the itch, and then you find yourself. What can a man do with his wife, even if he's mad? He don't give a damn what she's mad about. What will he still do with her? Okay, there we go. I see brothers shaking their head. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so don't think you can remain unmarried. And this Negro is committing adultery, but you still get the itch, and then you find yourself, y'all separated, but he's over at the new place you got.
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem. Aracha HaKodash, and double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of Great Millstone. Shalom and honors to you elders and you brethren, you fellow believers of this truth. Shalom to you supporters of this ministry, all of you who support the faith. That includes you sisters as well, and shalom to the elect. So it seems anyway that I'm just going to try to hit this real quick and hit some points and go over some scriptures. But the IUIC marriage tends to be extremely confusing, right? They have a lot of back and forth on things that don't make sense. The main thing I have the problem in this video is they call men adulterers that lay with other women, right? They only are an adulterer if the woman they lay with have another husband, right? So it's really confusing because they're calling it a man adultery, and then there's an adulterer, and then according to the law, they're teaching that a woman can't put her husband away even if he commits adultery. And this is confusing because if it is adultery, right, legitimately, why isn't it an act of a serious sin? Because sin is the transgression of the law. See, it's to keep the woman in that school. This is what it's all about. This is all about management of relationships in that school. Because a couple of those men are going to so-called commit adultery, and they're going to keep them, right? They have to keep them there, so these women are, so it gives the man room for error in case he slips up and rolls with his hormones, right? Now we teach if a man messes with another woman and she's not, and this woman is not married, he never committed adultery. But these guys are actually calling it adultery, but telling the woman to stay with an adulterer. I don't know. That's really confusing. And we're going to show you the differences in the fornication according to the Bible. And I'll probably go into some commentary because they'll go into that one wife thing, the bishop blameless. We'll go into that, Lord's will. But there's quite a few things he said, and it just didn't make sense. That's why I just wanted to touch on that. He said you can't, if y'all break up, you can't go to your high school sweetheart, but you can't go to him if you want to separate. But if you want sex, I guess what they're saying, you can't go back to the man that's an adulterer. This man doesn't know how the woman's mind is wired up. Something is wrong with these jakes. And Bishop Nathaniel, he understands, he's old school, but he's teaching these young men this zombified doctrine, man. A woman is going to go where she's comfortable at. Women are women, and that's what they're going to do. If somebody set her on fire, right, and if the man, if the husband, right, which they should be teaching, if this man does it for you, no matter who he mess with righteously, right, then there shouldn't be an issue. At least you're still getting that same man that you've been with, and you don't have to play the harlot. Anyway, let's get some scriptures. 1 Corinthians 7, he quoted 7 and 10, and it says, and unto the married I command yet, not I but the Lord, right, going into the law, let not the wife depart from her husband, right, and if she depart, let her remain unmarried. Right? But this doesn't mean that she's not going to go back. Paul knew what he was doing. Because it says, or be reconciled to her husband, let not the husband put away his wife. So that's saying if she wants to come back, if something goes wrong and she hasn't married anybody, you take her back. If that's what it's between y'all two. But if she's hot and burning, what do you think a man going to do? And plus, he was dealing with the situation that was going on anyway. How Jake was passing around women and the confusion of women and doing. We'll get in a commentary on that. But this goes on to say, but to the rest speak I, not the Lord. So now he flipped it. He said, I speak, but not the Lord. Meaning he's going into, the so-called normality of what was taught according to the law. Because, he's bringing something different. In fact, if you don't believe in Paul, you don't believe in Yahushua. That's why Yahushua had to say, unless a woman pretty much committed adultery, then you can't put her away. Why? Because they were putting her away for things, that's not as serious, right? They were just putting women away because these lawgivers and these Israelites were saying she's this or she's that and so forth. But at the end of the day, some of these people didn't know who they were. They woke up to who they were. They came back, but they would still have things on them. So you have to have some patience. But this is what they don't follow. It says, if a brother have the wife that believe not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. And a woman which hath a husband that believeth not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. Now, of course, this is the hopes that they would get together. But the Most High bound them through the Spirit to be in a relationship. So you just can't cast off women. And this group teach if it's 5 years gone by and they're not a non-believer, right? Get rid of them. This is what they teach. And that's why this is so confusing. It's really simple. A man and woman get together, right? And a man and woman get together, and when they get together, they're together. If the man desire to have other woman, he has other woman. But the Bishop Nathaniel teaches Isaiah 4:1, right, that men are going to have more than one wife. So you can't split the law and turn the law on and off like a light switch. You just can't do that. It's either the Lord is with it or he's against it. And Bishop Nathaniel teaches that according to captivities, you can't have but one wife. So now all of a sudden you're in captivity, right? And we knew in this society you won't only have one wife. But according to waking up to your heritage in this captivity, somehow the Lord decided you can't have but one wife. This is what they teach. But then in Isaiah 4:1, then you can have more than one wife. It's either the Lord is with it or he's against it. We never seen Yahushua go out and curse anybody out for a man having more than one wife. We never seen that. I haven't seen it in the scriptures. Right? So anyway, this is the hypocrisy of this IUIC. So we're going to go to Matthew 19:9. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. Right? So either way, and this is what's going on in church. They'll put away with the wife. They'll just throw off the wife and go get another wife. You have now put a part of yourself away. That is your flesh. And what's going to happen is you're going to cause that other woman, right, to commit adultery. And if you put her away, right, unrighteously, and she commit adultery, well, you committed adultery. You had no business doing that. And this is what was going on in the church of Corinth. This was going on. We'll get into that in a second. And whosoever marrieth her which is put away, both commit adultery. So all these guys in the IUIC have committed adultery. All of them had women that come in there that had other men. And the reason why they're doing all this, if the man dies, you got to stay with the man that's in the truth, because they're numbering the relationships in that school. It's all about the man and the woman in that school. They're putting all these burdens on these women, on what they should do and what they shouldn't do, and how and their husbands messing around, right? They're putting burdens on these people, man. And the woman has a simple job, is to love her husband and be beside her husband. But you know why they say these things? And I'll keep it real. They say these things because they want the woman to be with the men in the church. This is all an occultic mindset. I don't see nothing wrong with men and women getting together, right? I don't see nothing wrong with if that's what they want to do. But you know this brings adultery. You know this got to bring adultery. Because if the woman if the husband dies and she's by herself, in their mind, she's now got to be placed with a brother in IUIC. This keeps them jakes, you know what I'm saying? And then they'll say you got to have discipline. You can't just have more than one wife. Discipline yourself. Now, and that's true. But at the end of the day, you're going against nature. I don't know, man. Every man is different, especially when it comes to those departments. Women are different as well. Some men have a higher appetite for women than others. And true, you got to be disciplined. So let's look up this word fornication in this text. Now, fornication means different things. We had some disagreements with some other groups that said they read Leviticus not to prostitute thy daughter, right? It says committeth adultery. Let's see what that says. Committeth adultery, G34:29. In this text, it says, and shall marry another, committeth adultery, right? This is what, whosoever shall put away his wife, committeth adultery and marry another, right? So in this text, it says illicit sexual intercourse, adultery, fornication, leso, intercourse with animals. You can't even say it. Sexual intercourse with those close relatives. All right. Sexual intercourse with with a divorced man or woman. See what they did. All right. Right. And in this text, it makes sense if you really think about it, because if you just wrongfully put away your wife and then get another woman, yeah, that's a form of adultery, right? Because really just putting her away is wrong. You just can't put away your wife. Okay? It says defilement, idolatry, right? So we can see this word fornication has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It has 7 different definitions. So when we go to 2 Corinthians 2:11, moreover, he made high places in the mountains of Judah, caused the inhabitants of Jerusalem to commit fornication and compelled Judah thereto. So we can see this text, this is a totally different one. It says to commit fornication, H2181. And the last one, H2181, and the last one was H4202. So we'll look at the definition of that. It says to commit fornication, to be a harlot, to play the harlot, commit adultery, to be a cult prostitute, unfaithful to God. See, you can see here that this has different definitions and meaning as well. So when it talked about not to prostitute that daughter, that was going into, when you go into the commentary and you really do the context, that was actually going into they would marry or sell their children off into the temples, right, and commit adultery that way. Now, the sexual adultery, sexual fornication comes later, right? Kind of like Hollywood, when they sign a contract for their little child to go be in, to play a TV series. I'm not going to go into that, but you know the history of that and what happens to a lot of them. So you pretty much gave them up for fornication. That's just an example. Now, when you go to Timothy 2, a bishop must be blameless, the husband of one wife, right? So I want to say this because we already know that according to this video, what they're going to say. Now, we've done, I've done several videos on that. It says, when it says a bishop must be blameless, the husband of one wife. You know, when you really go into the text and commentaries and read and do the studying, you'll see this has nothing to do with him having one wife. It was just the wife had multiple husbands, right? The wife had multiple husbands. So he couldn't be the husband of one wife if that wife had 5 husbands. That's what that was technically going into. Because bishops had more than one wife. You do the research. And the way he would be blameless is he couldn't marry a woman that he didn't really, in the church, he wouldn't marry her because it was a possibility she done had 4 or 5 husbands already, and he didn't know it. So that would be the way to be blameless. Let's read some commentary on this. Well, it says in the commentary that Paul alludes to his incidents no longer looked upon as shameful in Rome. He even, in his indignation at the laxity of the morals of this day, cities where cases of women who reckoned their years rather by their husbands, show us where it talked about husbands reckon their years messing with other women illegally, right? The only way they would, because a woman at that time, and it should be, it was sacred. A woman was sacred to her husband. And it says, then by the consuls, Marshall writes, a woman who had arrived at her 10th husband. 10th. Right? 10th husband. And then you go to the precept. This is where Yahushua talked about the woman at the well, who when he said you had 5 husbands. Again, we haven't seen Yahushua tell a man you had 5 wives. Anyway, it speaks on who in 5 years had 8 husbands, a woman who 5 years who had 8 husbands among the Jews. We know polygamy was then prevalent, right? St. Paul fully conscious of this low and debated moral tone which then pervaded all society in the empire. In a few words, condemned the illicit relationships between the sexes and directed the choosing persons to fill holy offices in the congregation of the Christians. I'm just reading a little bit. It says, be interested, sacred, one office, one wife. Therefore, by they show themselves temperate in the use of sensual pleasures through the immoderate love of which the Asiatic nations practice polygamy. Persons who divorced each other unjustly were guilty of adultery when they married themselves to others. Also because such really had more wives and husbands than one at a time, as was the case of the woman of Samaria. There we go. The apostle, to restrain this licentious practice, which were common among the Greeks and the Romans, as well as among the Jews, ordered that no widow should be chosen to instruct the younger women, but such as had been the wife of one husband, right? See, there we go. The wife of one husband, but you see on here it says the husband of one wife. Okay? The wife of one husband only at a time, right? It says the wife of one husband, intent upon the duty. Okay, one more, I guess. Many converts to Christianity will have more than one wife. They are nowhere commanded to put away all but one. But it was not seemly that a man in such position should be a Christian minister who ought in all respects to be an example of the flock. Timothy says needs no difficulty when and now many women would change her partner and with or without a so-called remarriage, feel no scruple so long as she was faithful to the new partner. The elementary principle of Christian relationships needed then to be taught in Christian Asia, and he's teaching now in many still half-heathen circles of Christian England. There's a whole lot more in here, but once you read, you kind of get an understanding of what took place in the churches. And one part of it I read a while ago, if a husband lost his wife, he wasn't to remarry. I mean, this is where you get the Roman Catholics adaptation from. But that was, again, a Greek tradition. So we were plagued by Roman Greek traditions. And that's that one wife thing, right? And messing around, and that's why they adopted the one wife in Western culture, because they read this and said this is the way to keep the church straight, and they read it and said they applied it to all Israelites. You know, we were the threat. That's why they told that to us. This is why today you can have an alternative lifestyle with 4 husbands of the same. That's all I'm going to say on that. Or 4 wives of the same. Nobody has a problem with that. But when it comes to us men and women getting together, that's an issue. And that's why I wanted to go into this school, this confused doctrine of a man, you know, he's supposed to have one wife, you know. This is crazy. And it's like, if he cheated, if he committed adultery, then that's a sin. And according to their laws, sin is the transgression of the law. So he broke the law. So what is punishment of sin? So in other words, in IUIC, you can sin all you want, commit all kinds of adultery. Nothing happens to you. And a woman must bear it. That's all I